Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good to see you, ma'am.
Good to see you. Thank you.
All right, welcome. Hopefully this will be a friendly 15-minute interview.
Okay.
Each council member has a question for you. Time management is, in your answers is your responsibility. If you can kind of control that. Everything that we're doing here is being recorded and will go on Bowie Cable TV at the conclusion of all the interviews. That way everybody will see how transparent the process is, but nobody gets an advantage over anybody else.
Right.
At the end of the questions, we'll try to give you a minute or so that you can wrap up and leave whatever thought behind that you think is appropriate. So with that, we'll start the questions with Dr. Trout.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for applying. My question is, what do you think is the most important issue in Bowie, and how do you plan to make improvements?
Thank you. Let me first say I appreciate this opportunity. And so I've lived in Bowie for the last 11 years, right? I'm raised
Hold on 1 minute. The clock is not rolling.
Go ahead. It's okay.
Continue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I've lived here for the last 11 years. My husband and I are raising a young child. For 4 of those years, we took care of my grandmother who passed away at 88 and received a lot of services from being here at Bowie. Most of you know me because I served as the chair for the Bowie Education Committee. I was on that committee for 7 years, chaired it for 4 in the middle of all of that. And so what I've come to see as probably one of the most important issues is balancing, I would say, the new Bowie and the old Bowie. Is that it's a city, I see it in my own neighborhood, just the growth, and there's some wonderful things that are happening there. And so finding the balance between the growth and then still keeping the essence of what makes everybody want to live in Bowie, right? And so I think involving the stakeholders and making people still feel like this is still your Bowie, right? While at the same time it's like a thriving, just growing, developing city.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Dr. Spruil, for coming out this evening.
Thank you.
My question and statement, more or less, it is my opinion that local government is the most important level of government. Explain why you either agree with me or disagree.
I agree with the statement. I do believe that local government is the most important government, and I think that because it's what you see most directly. And so I think what happens here in Bowie affects people on a daily basis. People see it on a daily basis. You see when things are changing or the neighborhood's changing. You see when schools are thriving or when they're not. And so you feel directly connected even if it isn't you yourself. I am a district employee for the school system, and I feel like that kind of mirrors some of that same, this is where I live, this is my home, and so people feel directly connected when it's local. It seems far more removed if it's the national government, and less, I think, likely that people feel like they can do something about it, but people feel more engaged where they live, where they work, where they play.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Wolfley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for coming out this evening. I appreciate your time and your willingness to serve. Do greatly appreciate it. My question for you is, to date, how have you chosen to serve the city of Bowie? For example, have you served on city committees, run for office, been on a homeowner association, PTA, or the like? And how will that help you represent your constituents?
So I'll say I'm currently seeking an office, so that would be one way I'd like to serve. But again, I served for 7 years on the Bowie Education Committee, which is actually a 2-year voluntary commitment. And I continued to serve because I continued to feel that I had something to offer and that this was a good place where I could use my talents. I chaired it for 4 of those years. I am very active in my community. I'm very active with my church. I participate in a lot of events that happen here in the city. So I think in purposeful ways where I'm officially volunteering, and then I think in ways where I see a need that I pitch in. Again, I mentioned I'm part of the school system, and there's lots of purposeful and voluntary ways that I try to serve there as well, including making sure that people are aware of the opportunities that are there, right, of the wonderful things that are actually happening. And so I think that's also service, is just to share good information, to share opportunities for young people in our city. Thank you.
Mr. Stead.
Too many papers on my desk. Good evening.
Good evening.
The Sears location at Bowie Town Center is closing. The owners of the property are planning a mixed-use development for the site. What are your thoughts on the matter?
So I'm aware of that. I think it seems like a lot of what's happened in just communities, that developments are coming, and that includes some housing, that includes some business, that includes some stores, that I'd like to see as much support in our city. I'd like to see people stay in our city, shop in our city, right? I know that there's some controversy around it, and I think change is hard. I think part of it is important that people know and understand what's happening, and so then when they make their decisions about how they support it or don't, then at least they're fully informed, right? Thank you.
Mr. Workers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Dr. Spruil, for being here and your interest in the seat.
Thank you.
My question is, how do you feel about going forward with residential and commercial development in Bowie? And what do you think the relationship between the county and Bowie should be with regards to that development?
So again, I do see it, Councilman, as part of the wave of the future of cities. I think as a resident, I've had to come to try to understand this better myself, okay? I know the tax increment funding, I know that's been a big issue for people. So when people understand it's not coming from their taxes, I think that kind of helps folks to, okay, this is something that's good for our city. I think it sort of ties into your second questions about the county and the city, that if you're going to use our roads, use our water systems, if you're going to use resources that come from our city, then I think that we have to make sure that the relationship between the city and the county are mutually beneficial.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Pleasant? All right, now we'll give you the opportunity to use some time to leave us with whatever you thought you think would be helpful for you.
Okay, thank you. So again, I'm really appreciative. I've stood at this podium a number of times in the last 7 or 8 years, and so it's because I believe, it's because I want to make a contribution. It's because I appreciate just from what I've seen of the work that you do, and so I understand the commitment. I feel like you can't serve any better way, I think, than to sit in those tough spots and to make those tough decisions, right? So I appreciate that. I think what I bring is a wealth of experience. One, my shown commitment to the city. One, my passion as a family person who, from the youngest in my family to the senior who closed out her life in this city, that I feel like I have a true appreciation and love for my city. And it is the stuff that brings me here and makes me want to serve in other and larger ways. I think my experience as an educator, that I have served from this city to DC to New York in a variety of capacities in the classroom and across the district, that I think it brings another perspective to the council. And I know that schools are sort of a separate entity because they're through the county, but I think it directly bears on the quality of life of people who live here in our city, and I think it matters. And so that's something that I hope that I would bring to kind of enrich what the county offers, okay? I'm not afraid of tough decisions. I've been in lots of positions where I've had to do that across my life, and so I think it's important that stakeholders understand, right, that we have to go to them as opposed to them coming to us. I've come to appreciate the development of Bowie as I sought for more information myself. Right, so I think that's an important thing, is to make sure that people are aware of what's happening, and tough decisions are just part of the deal. And so I understand that, and I think if people just are more knowledgeable, then it's a little more palatable for them. That's it. I want to serve, and I know there's a learning curve but I also think that I'm committed and I could actually sort of sustain that.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for coming out this evening. And
Thank you for your time.
the drill is we got a couple more to do tonight, and then I think 8 tomorrow night. And as soon as those are over, we'll try to come up with a decision as quickly as possible.
Great. All right.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone.